Welcome back to the Mulligan Brothers. I'm your host, Jordan Mulligan, and today's interview is with Alderton, a man who took his experiences from the army and the military and applied them into the world of self-improvement to deliver some of the best lessons. Jay has absorbed so much information and so much knowledge and wisdom that he's able to articulate from his lessons from the sea. So one of my favorite conversations we have in this interview, the lessons from the sea. He's able to talk about his cold dips, his cold therapy, resilience, just an absolute number of topics, but articulated in a way that I've never heard them before to deliver you some of the best wisdom and teachings that I've heard on the channel. Today's video was made possible, as always, at Mulliganbrothers.com. Mulliganbrothers.com with a mission to inspire change, and you guys are making that possible. So thank you so much, everybody who bought a t-shirt, a journal. But also I wanted to say that the new poster is available, the Memento Mori poster. Use code STOIC at checkout for 10% off. It's a poster of 80 years of tiny little squares, and you shade them in as you go along. It's a constant reminder that one day you're gonna die. You are gonna die one day. And if that doesn't get you motivated, I don't know what will. It works for me. Every day I wake up, I realize that time is very, very precious and important. And it's been the best motivational tool for me. So if you want to use code STOIC at checkout, you get 10% off at Mulliganbrothers.com.
So, for those who don't know, just introduce yourself and what you do.
Cool. Where do you want me to start? From the very beginning?
From the very beginning. So I've got a list of things to cover in terms of childhood, into the military, all those. So if we don't go through them, I'll just bring them up anyway. But just wherever you feel you want to start.
I'd say that I'm going to rewind to when I was 17. And the reason I'm rewinding to 17 is because I do have a lot of people following me who are in their 20s who haven't got a clue what they want to do. And I was that kind of 17 to 20-year-old that this was getting into trouble, no direction, failed the 2 years he was at college and only managed to complete a year and was completely lost. And the only thing that I thought would be the best plan of action for me to do was to join the army. Because for me, it was either the army or prison, because I was just up to no good, drinking too much, no direction. And at 17, joined the British Army, spent 6 years in there, did a 6-month tour of Iraq, matured very, very quickly in the army, knew that I looked at the army as a stepping stone onto something else, and left. I spent a few years working in psychological operations for the US government in Baghdad, moved over as security advisor for the UN in Kenya and Somalia, and then got made redundant from that. And was completely surprised because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Decided to write some stuff down. Everything was pointing at becoming a PT. And in 2012, I whacked 17 grand, I think, on a credit card to become a PT. Borrowed my dad's bike because I couldn't afford a car, and cycled up to this little studio on an industrial estate by a prison to try and get some clients in the door. 3 years later, became one of the most well-known PTs in the UK. Built my own gym facility, closed that gym facility, and moved everything online, where today my focus is one thing, and it's leaving people better when they find my content.
I love that. I feel like that follows kind of our mission statement is to inspire change, and at the moment inspire change through film, but we expect along the journey, we'll flow into different sort of fields as well. Just to take it back to the military aspect of it, I've heard you speak about it a little bit, but was there any experiences in the military that really shaped you and honed you? And also, like, I think we all sort of forget that 17 years old, 18 years old, in a situation like that, the effects that has on the mind, and now today you carry yourself, I wonder if you carry yourself differently because of those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I was going up on the train to basic training at 17, and I remember being violently sick the whole way up because I'd never been away from home. I'd had all my securities in life. I was literally chucking up on the train with nerves, and it matures you so quickly. Like I remember 2008, going to Iraq, saying goodbye to my wife, not knowing if I'm coming back, giving my dad a hug to say, bye, Dad. And it grows you the fuck up. Because what it does is it makes you appreciate just the little things in life that we all take for granted. You know, you're like, kids are doing your head in. You know, you keep saying no to your friends. You know, you're getting really annoyed with the most pettiest of things. And I think what the army enabled me to do is just really appreciate simple things. And I remind myself all the time, you know, like one of my practices at the moment is gratitude and 3 things you're grateful for. Now, one of the things that I was doing, there was a couple of things I was doing wrong with gratitude. One of them was putting it on autopilot. So what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the opportunities. I'm grateful for this. And it seems to be you're saying these things, but you're not understanding why you're saying them. So there was a couple of practices which I learned. The first one is you need to say 3 things that you're grateful for, but you can't say the things that you said the day before or the day before or the day before. And the great thing about that is it enables you to spend a bit of time in reflection and going, what am I grateful for? And it can be the most random of things. It really, really can. I'm trying to give you a random example. You know, I would say I'm grateful for my kids and this, that, and the other. Like yesterday's was, I'm just grateful that my daughter Eliza has taken to something at such a young age in which she's talented at, because I never had that when I was a kid. I never had that drive and passion that I see in her eyes, which I didn't get until I was 30 years of age. So that's a really deep thought to think about. And there's another thing about gratitude called negative visualization, which I was listening on a podcast about stoicism, and I was just like, that's powerful. And what it is once again, you know, when I was talking about appreciating little things, because, you know, you're away from them. You know, I was away in Iraq for 6 months. So you really appreciate the little things. And what negative visualization is saying, right, okay, I'm grateful for my kids. You visualize getting a phone call saying there's been a car accident and unfortunately they're not with us anymore. How grateful are you to see them now? You know, that makes me want to go home and hug my kids. So what negative visualization is, it's not about dwelling in that thought. It's about having that thought and then realizing that hasn't happened. It's okay. You can go home and spend time with your kids. And then you actually really will go home, put your fucking phone down and actually hug your kids. And that's what negative visualization, I think a lot of people during the pandemic were very much appreciating simple things. You know, I was doing my daily sea dips and the amount of messages I was getting from people going, do you know what? I live 5 miles from the sea. I haven't seen it for a year. I would kill to go for a sea dip right now. And I hate the fucking cold. And it's just this realization, once again, you got something 5 miles on your doorstep, and because it's so close and so convenient that you don't appreciate it. And, you know, if you're thinking about this now, if you're thinking about things that you take for granted, you know, take a little bit of that negative visualization, say, right, okay, you know, pandemic, you cannot go and see the sea. You cannot go and see the people that you care about. It puts things into perspective and makes you appreciate those things and makes you take action on those things, which, you know, over this whole journey of my life and what I've done, I've just realized it's just the simple things that, you know, that give you the most happiness, give you the most satisfaction. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to constantly find ways not to take it for granted.
The idea of negative visualization, I really love, and I think when you're talking about it, it's more, the idea of being in the military is more reality. The reality is that you might not return home to see your family. So then there is a forced appreciation of the situation when you return home. A lot of people in life face those moments of, we were speaking about it earlier, of times that make you resilient, times that force you to become either break or become resilient to it and build resilience. The definition between, or the difference between the situation of forced resilience building or chosen resilience building, like the ice dips, the cold water. I'd love to hear your opinion on that. Like, and can you develop resilience to a level of what life could throw at you through choice?
Through choice, yes, but a high majority of people don't, because life can be very comfortable. And it was something that I've said quite a lot. If I don't do an ice bath every day for the next 60 days, what happens? Nothing. If I don't go to the gym for 60 days, what happens? Nothing. See, the consequences for not doing this are not visual until they are. Because not doing these things, not building up your stress tolerance, slowly and surely things get to you so much easier. When I see someone who is taking the piss out of getting up early, looking after your physical health, eating healthily, they see it as a joke and go, well, you know, I don't do any of that, and I feel fine. So why have you just spent the last hour arguing with a stranger on the internet? You know, what you don't see that this does is it just enables you to think very differently, enables you to be a lot more self-aware. And I don't know the statistic, but I was reading quite a bit, and apparently only about 15% of the world are actually self-aware. And a level of self-awareness where they can take themselves out and go, I'm being a dick, or I'm not doing enough, or I need to step things up a level, or you've had enough now, stop f***ing around. And it takes a lot to do that, because a lot of people aren't willing to be honest with themselves of not where they want to be. You know, there's this avoidance is a lot easier than action, because we don't want to face our demons because it's painful. And I say, well, you can either face them now for the next 6 months, or you can face them for the rest of your life. It's that old cliche quote of the pain of change is much less painful than the pain of staying the same. And one thing that I found is when I build up daily stress tolerance, when I face these things that most people don't want to do, two things happen. Firstly, discipline is a muscle which needs to be strengthened and built daily. And if you build that daily and maintain it, anything that life throws at you, you can deal with. That person on the internet who sends you a shitty message, you just brush it off. And one of the things that I say to a lot of people is that you need to have your shit squared in many different areas: physically, mentally, financially, and emotionally. And the way that I kind of have this as an analogy is that there's a lot of people that are drowning in something: debt, relationship problems, life. And one thing they say is, if somebody is drowning, don't go in and rescue them, because what will happen is they don't know what they're doing, so they'll pull you down and you'll drown too. The only time you should go in and rescue someone is if you're an expert swimmer. How do you become an expert swimmer? Stress tolerance, eating healthy, exercising, earning good money, saving, not having all of the things that trigger people because they're not willing to face the reality that they're not working on those things. So if you don't do these things, nothing will happen. Life will eventually be more and more difficult to deal with.
The self-awareness statistic doesn't shock me at all. I remember for me, self-awareness came when life slapped me in the face. Like, it was like the most traumatic thing that happened to me, and life slapped me in the face, and like I woke up like completely, and I had this self-awareness, and I try and instill that in people. I try and tell people that this is what you need, and so many people almost believe they're self-aware as well. I think we all do. Like, that's, you know, maybe I'm wrong about myself.
It's hard to see the label when you're stuck inside the jar.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And it's not until you step outside that jar that you actually see it. And the only way that you step out is when something traumatic happens that actually just reminds you that, you think. If I go back 5 years, I said this before, that if you looked at your life as a chapter of a book, I thought in a 12 chapter book that I was on chapter 10. So I was like, I'm only a couple of chapters away from completing life. And that was the level of arrogance I was at. It's this kind of Dunning-Kruger effect of, when you're new, as in you're in your early 30s, you think you've got most of your life figured out. So I'm reading 10 chapters into my book, about to close the last 2, and then everything melts down. And then I wake up and realize I'm not on chapter 10, I'm on chapter 2. I ain't got a fucking clue what I'm talking about. And it humbles you. It humbles you a lot, because that enabled me to realize a lot of things which I wasn't listening. And it's this kind of thing where lessons will always repeat themselves until they're learned. And if you're not learning from these lessons, you're going to get a very big one. And some people don't recover from those lessons because they don't learn from them. So they repeat the same patterns, and it woke me the fuck up. Completely changed everything that I was doing. And very much like these things, I'm glad that they all happen. A lot of people are afraid for these, we talk about ups, failures and mistakes. A lot of people are so afraid to make them that they don't push themselves into understanding them. And it's difficult, because you can sit here on podcasts and interviews and tell people what they need to do, but unfortunately most people, there's a big difference between listening to somebody else and experiencing it yourself. And life is full of those obstacles and curveballs, but it's all down to how you look at them. You can look at them as negative things, or you can look at them as opportunities. I think there's an author, Randy Pausch, I think his name, he's got a great book called The Last Lecture, and he died of cancer. So he found out he had cancer and he had about 6 months left, and the book is about him giving his last lecture. And he talks about obstacles, and he said obstacles are not things that are there to stop you from getting what you want. They're there to stop people who don't want them enough to try and remember what the quote is. Let me paraphrase this. Obstacles are there. In fact, can I get that piece of paper, because I've got this written down, and I do not want to mess this up, because it's such a powerful quote, and I actually rated it. Okay, cool. Randy Pausch from The Last Lecture, he said, the obstacles that lie between you and your goals are not there to stop you from reaching your goals. They are to stop the people who don't want them enough. And for me, that's so powerful, because we've all experienced those things that fuck us up, and we're like, shit, I thought we were onto something here, and a curveball comes in, and you're like, is it a curveball though? Yeah, I'm not very spiritual, but if you were to look at this as going, right, cool, there's someone up there playing a big game, and it's like, these guys are good, and then it's like, yeah, but how good are they? It's like, let's put it to the test. And they put this thing in front of you, and then you decide then to give it up and try something else. And then the people up there go, told you. Versus putting that obstacle in your way, and not only do you learn from it, you become better, and like, they deserve it. And whatever thing you think of, if you can mentally visualize that when you go through a tough time, you're like, no, I know your game, what the f***er. Let's see what you're made of. And I love that kind of shit, because I've pushed myself so much in my life of people doubting what I can do. They're like, that's not possible, you can't do that. I'm like, there is a certain level of arrogance to it, because a good friend of mine, Ross Edgley, he said, and he has achieved incredible feats of endurance. He's the first man to swim around the entire United Kingdom. And he said an amazing quote, which I'll always remember, and he says, you have to be naive to start and stubborn to finish. And anything that you go into, if you knew how much work was involved and how much sacrifice you had to make, if someone went down and go, well, Jordan, here's what's going to happen to you in the next 10 years if you decide to take this journey, you'd probably take one look at that book and go, fuck that shit. And it's so true. And that's where, when I think about obstacles, when I think about things that you need to build up, you've just got to go into it with a level of naivety. But when these things do come, you've just got to have a mindset about it to go, okay, cool, how bad do you want this? And I always think that when this is difficult, I remind myself, if this is difficult, then it's worth doing, because most people at this stage would have given up. So if you don't, you're going to get rewarded eventually by this. And you don't know when. There's not a timeline for this, but you will. 10, 15 years time, you look back and there will be probably a split-second moment where you're just like, it was all worth it. It made me who I was.
The way you say that as well is like, I think there's like, it feels like you're in the deep with, and there's a certain type of people, and they're all in the deep, and that's it. They just keep going, they keep swimming. It's funny the way you articulate that throwing something at you, like constantly throwing something at you to test you, is we've always felt like Mulliganbrothers, we've always felt like that. Like when the worst of the worst thing comes along, that's when we're like, we sit and look at each other like, here we go, like this is, and the bigger the storm and the harder it is to weather it. Like, I wouldn't say in the moment, I wouldn't say we're always smiling, but there is a part where we just like, have that like little smile on our faces, like this is the test, like this is what we came for. How do you, I don't know if you do, but the way you've articulated that, I'm guessing you do, is when those hard times come along, and with your level of self-awareness, you do have self-awareness, how do you remind yourself in that moment, in those difficult moments, that it's a test, like this is it, and to almost, I don't know if you get this, but like to almost smile and be like, at least I've got something to test me.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this, like I say to myself, this is why we get paid the big bucks, and it's not got nothing to do with money. It's just like, it's this reason going, well, you've put yourself in this position for a reason. So, and if you expected this to be easy, then what's going on? And something I've done many years, I've pushed myself physically, and one of the reasons that I've done that is I have something inside me which, when you get to this breaking point and questioning something, it's the most magical thing, because it's exactly why that's happened. And if I think back to some of my charity events, I pushed a 140 kilo sled for 24 hours. I got 14 hours in, blisters all on my feet. I thought I was done. I'll send you the video, but my daughter came on the FaceTime and said, "I'm proud of you, Daddy." Straight away, back up, finished. I ran backwards for 24 hours, 109 kilometers. 19 hours in, I was hobbling, walking backwards, not thinking I can go, and just something was like, someone said to me, you're about 6 kilometers off the world record. And then something in me, I took off my second jacket because I was cold, because I was walking backwards, and I said, let's go. I ran my fastest 5K that I ever ran. I did the Brighton 10K backwards, and I ran a faster 5K time, 19 hours, than I did then. And it's like, where the f*** does this come from? Boxed on Everest, hour 9 of 24. My quad spasms, my calf went, and my heart rate was going through the roof, and I was like, fuck, we're done. And I was like, you don't need to think about the other 15 hours we've got, you just need to get through this hour. Got through the hour, I had a massage, had a little talk to myself, and then just got back on. And I like these little moments, and the reason that these are great is because you can't read that from a book. You have to take yourself to a place where most people would be like, this is done. And the only person that has really been able to articulate that, what that is, has been David Goggins. For him to talk about the 40% rule, and just, talking about it and experiencing it with the things that I've done, it is such a powerful thing, because I think something that we said earlier, and this is something that a lot of people say to me, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? And I'd say to him, you're loved and you're good enough. But in order to get that feeling of good enough, you need to put yourself in situations where you do things, and then you say to yourself, yeah, you're good enough now. Because you can't just tell somebody that. They've got to experience it for themselves. And I think that's why I've, been able to relax so much more as I've got older, because it's like we have a level we can go at. We can always ramp it up, but we don't need to. And I love this old quote of, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener at war. The reason I'm so peaceful now is because there's a warrior there and I don't need to get it out, because I know it's still there. And that brings me peace, because I don't have any fear that, I think something that you said to me, fear that someone's going to take it away from me, because I like it when I've got nothing. I've been in that position many a times. Back from when I got made redundant 10 years ago, cycling up to my studio. Back in 2019, there is a pound in a frame there. That's what I had to my name. When I closed down my gym, I split from my business partners. My son Archer was due in 3 months' time, and I had to start a new business from scratch. Loved it. So that's why I have no problem thinking that someone's going to take it away, because actually that sounds like fucking fun to me. And I think when you have that kind of mindset with things, and I think everybody can develop it, you just have a level of comfort in your life. Not satisfaction, but comfort. Because I love what I do. I like pushing myself. I do like numbers. I like measuring things, because I enjoy what it is that I do. They're just vanity metrics to me. And even if they weren't giving me feet, if Instagram took all the likes off and Facebook removed all the views, I'd still happily post. If I've got nothing else to do for the day, the first thing that I think of is put something good out into the world, put a piece of content out, because it's what I've been doing for the last 10 years.
The thing I love about the gym and like the feats, world record, is it doesn't lie. Like it's the one thing I love about the gym, lifting weights, running miles, whatever it is, it doesn't lie. You cannot wake up and do box jump Everest. It's not possible. And I absolutely love that. Like, it's so distinctive. Is like you've put in the work. That's just an absolute fact. The awareness side of things that I'm really interested in to hear is, how does somebody develop it though? Like, how does somebody, like we say that life can force you into it, and it can create the awareness. Like and for you, it sounds like what happened. But like over the years, like, have you been able to teach somebody to gain awareness without having them have life slap them in the face?
I think one of the things that people need to understand is, and I genuinely believe that people think that somebody's going to come and rescue them. And I honestly think that people have this mindset of, it's okay, someone will come and save me soon. And, it's not this actual saying, it's just this thought process. Because a lot of people go, yeah, well, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next year. Oh, that's the focus next year. It's the whole resolution thing and everything. It's like, look, and a lot of people said this, there's no one coming. There's no one that's going to hit that snooze on the alarm. There's no one that's going to get your ass to the gym. And it's reminding yourself of that time and time again. A thing that I love, and I live my life through quotes. Quotes to me are mental models. And I think one of the biggest ones is, what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public. There's a lot of things that I do I used to document everything on social media. Everything for me was a vlog, and everything for me was videoed. Now, only a small percentage of it is. I actually had someone message me and go, do you not go to the gym anymore? And I said, no, I'm probably training just as hard as I always have when I used to compete. But it's my thing. It's not anybody else's now. Because before it would be like, right, I've got to go to the gym. Oh, fuck, I need to bring my camera equipment. I need to be at that light because it's a bit dark in that corner. I need to make sure it's not too busy so I'm not disturbing anyone. And now it's, I get to go to the gym and lift. And I don't need to show you, I don't need to put a sweaty selfie to show you I'm doing it, because I'm doing it for me. This is not anymore, I'm not in my 20s anymore trying to look good for other people. I'm in there looking good for myself. I'm in there because I care about my self-esteem, my self-confidence. I love myself. And a lot of people go, you're full of yourself. I'm like, what's the opposite of being full of yourself? Being empty. And a lot of people are empty. You love yourself, don't you? How can you love other people if you don't love yourself? You know, when we talk about fulfillment, what is fulfillment? It's being full in love, and that starts within. Once again, the quote goes, you can't serve others from an empty vessel. So a full vessel is someone who's full of themselves. But I think so many people fucked up that quote because they've generalized selfishness and being full of yourself and loving yourself as something that is vain, narcissistic, and selfish, which is why people are afraid to put themselves first.
It's interesting. I remember when I gained a lot of weight. I got up to about 360 pounds. Like, I was absolutely huge and really depressed, terrible mindset, was not in a good place. And I couldn't shift the weight. Like, there was nothing I could do. And I remember one time I'd stopped trying and I hated myself. Like, would look in the mirror and say how disgusting I was, how much I hated myself. I don't know what it was that switched, but I remember looking in the mirror one time and going, you've got this body, like, it's not where you want it to be, but you're so fortunate, and you know you can look good, you've looked good before. And you know, I started to say, I love myself, I really do love this body that I've got, I just need to get it to where I want it to be, but I absolutely love myself. And I started to get in shape, and it was like, really started to happen, really started to look after myself, and then it was like a snowball effect. And I got to what I would consider my ideal body. I was really happy. And then by the end of it, I was, maybe people would say I was full of myself. Like, and you know, I still love the body I'm in. And I used to, if someone would ask me, I'd tell them, like, yeah, I think I look great. Like, I'm happy with how I look. And I remember when I used to say I hated myself and I looked disgusting, nobody would chime in, like, you know, that I was allowed to do that. Like, people allowed me to have that negative talk about myself. When I started talking positively about myself, people would try and bring me down and like would shut that down as quickly as possible. And what's your opinion on the general public, or like the majority of people, because it was the majority of people who had a problem with my positive self-talk? Like, what is that mentality that most of us have? I don't know if it's a British thing as well.
No, it's actually there's a quote there's a Chinese quote, and a stuck out nail gets easily hammered in is how it's translated, because you know, in Eastern countries you don't stand out from the crowd, you blend in, you follow suit. So it's definitely not. Germans have got a quote called Schadenfreude, which stands for taking pleasure in other people's pain. We haven't actually got a word for it in English, and it is the sense of smugness when someone gets knocked off their pedestal. We like people to do well, but just not too well. Because let's just say, for example, we turn around and, have you heard about Tom, who was in our year at school? He's just sold his company for 100 million. What is most people's response to that? No, I need to find Tom's number to congratulate him. Versus sitting there going, why haven't I got 100 million? And it's very much this thought process of status and comparison. And this is something that we do every day. You know, we get our self-esteem from others, from the people that we surround ourselves with, from the environment that we're with. And something on the front of my studio is environment dictates performance. Most people, as we said, are not very self-aware. And when you are happy, when you are on a track, what it does is it holds a mirror up to somebody else to then allow them to question themselves, are they doing enough? And now there's two responses for that. When you inevitably ask a question, you either avoid it or you take action. And the easier thing to do is avoid it. How do you avoid it? By downplaying, by down-talking somebody else's achievements. It's the easy route. But if you tell me that you hate yourself, you tell me that you dislike things, that instantly makes me feel good. Because at least I'm not Jordan. Could be worse. So is this ingrained mentality that people have with success. They think that success is some bucket that if you take from it, that means that they don't get any. And it's not, it's a flowing river. You know, if you're successful, most successful people that I've spoken to, and something that I've done for the last 10 years is if I found a cheat code for something, I'll share it with my audience. If I found an easier way of doing something, I'll write a blog post on it. Nothing makes me happier when I get a text message or a DM from someone going, "Hey Jay, I tried that thing that you recommended it and it changed my life." That's fucking epic. You know, if somebody's, I'm always the first person to congratulate someone because I genuinely love seeing people do well. And if there's anything that I could say to somebody else, it's just, if you are starting to get triggered by other people's success, ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Because we're going back to what we're saying, no one's going to come and help you. In fact, why don't you reach out to those people who are where you want to be? Because the chances are they'll take some great pleasure in helping you get there too.
Yeah, it's definitely true. One of the things I think I see, or I believe might be true, is if you were at the same level as somebody, let's take the school. The school analogy is really good. So two people at school, similar level. You know, we can excel in education, but you know, the things that we consider to be success outside of school happens when we inevitably leave school. And I believe that when somebody sees somebody doing good, it is that mirror to somebody, and it's to say, we were once here, you know, you could be doing this as well. You are capable of doing this. And that, especially those early days, early 20s, a lot of it is, the easy option is to try and pull somebody back down, or to shit on them so much that it's like, it's not anything. Like, I don't need to be, they are not successful in my eyes, because then I am not being questioned whether I could have been there as well. And again, the sharing thing I really love as well, because we used to keep ourselves to ourselves. You know, there's a big family, family business, so I didn't really feel that I needed other friends. Speaking to you today, like on camera, like off camera, sorry, Jay's shared loads of different ways for us that would financially benefit our business, benefit us to get our message out there as well. I didn't have to pry you for that. Like, you shared that, and I love doing that as well, to help people, and then they come back and say, you know, that thing you told me 2 years ago, like, it's helped us massively. Like, this is where we're at right now. So yeah, I mean, I've seen you speak about this before, but like spinning in circles or working in circles of people who have positive impact on you. Like, how important is it to create that sort of, those friends, those friendship groups?
If you're enjoying this interview with Jay Alderton, please head over to Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can support the channel by buying the t-shirts or the journals, and also the new poster is available, the Mentor poster. With code STOIC at checkout, you get 10% off. It's a poster to remind you that one day you will die. It's 80 years of tiny little squares, and you shade them in as you go along. If that doesn't get you motivated, I don't know what will, because one day you will not be shaded in a box. That works for me. So if you want to be reminded you're going to die, head over to mulliganbrothers.com. But before that, let's dive back into the interview.
Super important, but you need to get the balance right. Everything, as you know, everything in life is about balance. The mistake that people make is that they try and hang around with too many successful people, and too much of a good thing's bad for you. Because when you do that, you start to feel that no matter what you're doing, it's not enough, because you're always comparing to people who are playing a 10x game to you. Frank Shamrock, I do love UFC, and Frank Shamrock was an incredible UFC fighter, and he had this rule called the 33% rule. And he said you spend a third of your time with people that you can teach, and I think he was talking about jiu-jitsu with this, but a third of the time with people that you can teach, because retention of knowledge is incredible when you teach others what you know. You need to spend a third of your time with people who are playing the same game as you. Like, for him, it was like, if he's a purple belt, he's teaching the white belts, because he has a better understanding of the fundamentals of himself. One thing I love is I watched a Royce a Gracie fight, and he beat the second best in the world using basic white belt movements. And what was amazing about watching this video is it just goes to show that he basically beat him with the first 4 moves that you learn in your first few months of jiu-jitsu. The only difference is he had mastered them at such a level that he could beat anyone with them. So once again, 30 your time teaching others, because once again, you're helping them, you're helping yourself. People the same belt as you, learn things from each other, challenge each other, helping each other to level up. Black belts, people playing a bigger game than you, learn from them because they've been in the game longer. Too much time spent with them, you never feel good enough. Too much time teaching people, you don't learn anything yourself. So make sure that you're spending the right amount of time with the right people. And I think that's super important. I think something I spoke to you before about is the curse of knowledge. Sometimes we can hang around so much with the middle that we don't realize the problems below, which means that we can't connect and empathize with others because we just assume this shit's easy. Because we only hang around with people who, very much like me, hanging around with people who are in ridiculous shape all the time. I used to prep people for shows, and I remember one of my female athletes walking into the gym, me looking at every single person looking at her in the gym because she looks phenomenal. Walking up to her, how's it going? She goes, oh, look, I feel like shit. I feel fat. I'm 10 pounds over stage weight. And you're like, everyone is staring at you in the gym because of how amazing you look. But your head is just surrounded by other competitors. So you don't realize how good a shape you're actually in because it's not enough for you. And this is a mindset thing that a lot of people get in. They're never satisfied with what they have because they keep looking at the next level instead of very much like horizon and thinking, if you keep running towards horizon, it doesn't get any smaller. And you're like, fuck, I'm not going anywhere. What happens in that situation? You stop and you turn around. You realize that you've gone a good distance, and it's enjoying that view as you carry on going.
With the endurance stuff that you've done in the past, those are some. So you did the box jump, Everest, backwards
run
for how long?
24 hours.
24 hours, and then have you done
Sled push for 24 hours as well.
Sled push for 24 hours. Okay. In that, when you're doing those events and you're doing those things, like you said, like those external factors, like your daughter coming up to you. I got goosebumps when you said that. Like that's deep. But a lot of that is going to be the inner dialogue in your head. A lot of that's got to be on you. What is that voice? You know, like the inner Goggins, I guess, going like what's that voice sort of saying to you in those moments?
Emotion is a very powerful energy, and being able to have things in the tank there which you can pull from is something that most people can develop. And it's very hard to explain, but probably easy to understand. As I train for these things, I listen very much to music, and it's not the traditional kind of music that, you know, like you think gets you in the zone. It's a lot of different songs. The reason it's lots of different songs is because songs hit certain parts in your brain that bring you back to moments and events. So I can pull from a song energy instantly because it will remind me of a place or a situation that I was in that instantly makes me feel something. And this something could be even pain. So one of the things that I did in a lot of the events is I have a curated playlist that plays through certain songs and rotations that I can go to when I'm feeling a certain thing. So I can go, fuck this. You know, you go through different stages of exhaustion through a 24-hour period. And yeah, some people like David Goggins and, you know, Hell Week, they'll call it evolutions. So what evolutions is with Hell Week is 5 days, no sleep, this. And if you were to say, right, I've got 5 days, no sleep, you ain't going to get through it. All you need to do is focus on the next evolution. And the next evolution for me in all of them was I need to do 20 sled pushes up and down. Then I get half an energy bar and a sip of water. We shake off and we go again. For the backwards run, it's like we do 10 laps this way. We walk for half, water, half a banana. We turn and we do another 10 laps that way. For box jump, it was more intense. I have to do 660 box jumps an hour, which is 10 box jumps a minute every minute without stopping. I needed to have a rest period at the end of every hour, so that 10 had to be 15 a minute. So I could do 15 box jumps a minute for 50 minutes, so I could get 10 minutes on the hour to get ready for the next hour. So the only thing that I'm thinking about is that 50 minutes, so I can reset my brain for 10, and then it's a new hour, new socks, let's go again. And it's just a continual hour reset in your brain. So whenever you go through a difficult time, it's like, cool, where's that 50-minute playlist? I need that song, that song, that song. I need to be visualizing and thinking about that. And I just need to get through that 50 minutes. And it's amazing how you can kind of compartmentalize certain things in your brain and pull it when you need it. And, you know, no one's ever pushed themselves to the limits. I always say this to people, like, people say, I can't do something. I'm like, cool, you just haven't visualized it. Who do you love most in the world? Think about them. Okay, I'm going to put them there. And this is the extreme. I'm going to put them there. I've got a round in the chamber, and every 10 seconds I'm going to pull that trigger, and on the 6th bullet they're gone. How hard is that to do now? You've got 45 seconds. You just haven't visualized enough emotion to overcome this thing. And the only way that you're actually going to learn how that all works, because it's simple to understand and explain, is by getting some shoes on and challenging yourself to do something that everyone else thinks is crazy.
I love the song thing. Like that, it reminds us actually, myself, Niamh's a powerlifter as well. So when we've got a gym at the studio and when we're maxing or something, people probably think we've got like hardcore rock on or hip hop. Sometimes it's like classical and it'll be from like somebody's funeral. And it's like I have those particular songs that I'll listen to. And it's funny, the 24 hour, so we're looking at doing a 24-hour challenge. I'm not going to put it out there because at the moment I'm on the Stones, but when you're doing the 24 hours challenge, like that is so mentally draining. Like I've done like 12-hour things before, but a 24-hour challenge, box jumping, that's the one that I think is, when I'm thinking of that, it sounds disgusting, like to really go through that. But I would like to know that, you know, you physically prep for that to make those 24 hours slightly easier, however that looks. Yeah. If I took you right now to do that box jump challenge, mentally, do you think you could do it?
100%.
So this is what I want to ask. For something like that physical, because when you say like gun to your wife's head or something like that, I don't know what are you capable of doing? Like, do you think, what's the limitation to it?
That brings me a level of comfort. You know, it's like even thinking now. I remember, go back to another random story. We talk about that pound on the side there in 2019. I knew 2019 was going to be a difficult year because I'm closing my facility down, split from my business partners. The only way to do that is to completely sign everything over so I can leave. My son's coming in May. And New Year's Eve, we were at a New Year's Eve party, and I said to Anna, let's go. 6 p.m. We left, and I got my shoes out, got some socks, got some water, got a backpack, and I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I've just got to do something. Got up at 4, ran a marathon, so I did 26.2 miles on New Year's Day from 4 a.m, no training at all. I finished it, had breakfast, kind of hobbled around my day, and then 6 p.m. the next day. put my socks out, put my shoes out, put my water out, got up at 4, did another 26.2 miles. Ran it 20 minutes faster somehow. Knows why. Same again, hobbled around the next day. 6 p.m. the next day. Socks, shoes, water, and 4 a.m. went out. Got about 16.5 miles in, and I just stopped. And so whatever this is, we'll be okay. And I never really understood what it was. It was like, right, if I can get out January the 1st and run 69 miles in 2.5 days, any pain that you go through this year, be fine. Absolutely fine. And I was. So, speaking of business partners, built a new business. Son Archer came in May. Double the revenue that I had from my gym facility with 22 staff. Box jump Mount Everest that year as well, and wrote a best-selling book by the end of the year was out, and then enjoyed a 3-week holiday in Australia with family. And I reflected back, and it just made me think, like when we talk about stress tolerance, that to me was stress tolerance. It's like, cool, we're going to have a fucking hard year this year. What are we going to do to prepare for it? And for some reason that was the thing that was going to kickstart my year. And it just gave me a level of fulfillment for the entire year that I'll be fine. Because you just run 9 miles and no training. So once again, when you ask me, do you reckon if I put a box on and do it, I don't hesitate. Because there's something out there that goes, I get emotional when you said it, because I'm just like, yeah, it would be done. No problem.
It's that thing again of the warrior in a garden, and I've heard you quote Peterson before of to be a monster.
Yeah, I mean, I was really honestly, I was fascinated by his quote. He said, look, you don't want to be, everyone should be a monster. Everyone should be, capable of, terrible things. But never need to use them. And that comes back to this kind of warrior in a garden. Everyone should be a monster, be capable of being a monster, but never need to use it. And I think that's such a powerful thing, because I think a lot of weak people show uncontrolled aggression. And it's strong people that show controlled aggression. It's not the world champion MMA fighters going there fucking up people in nightclubs. They're normally the quiet, peaceful ones sitting in the corner, knowing that they can kick the fuck out of every single person in here. And because of that, they don't need to, and they're calm. And I love that kind of thought process with things, because you do have a calmer life. Because if shit does hit the fan, you know that you've got a button that you can press and go. But you'll probably never need to press it.
I used to find that actually as a teenager, like I was always, because I was taller, it was always like the person who had to prove a point was the guy who would be attacking somebody. The boxer, the fighter, never. Like it never would be the case. There are no points to prove.
I love it. There's this YouTube video, and I think it was in Polish, and he's got this guy who's just been kicked out of a nightclub by this bouncer. This bouncer's 4 times like Polish MMA champion, and this young guy in Polish is had to go fuck him on, this, that, and the other, and the guy's like, calm down, what's your name? And he ends up telling me, he goes, well, my name's this, like just first name, and he goes, you mean, and his arse dropped out, apologising so much, sorry, look, I'm leaving now. And it's once again explaining exactly that. When you are like that, you are calm. It doesn't matter that somebody is so aggressive to you, because deep down you could kick 7 shades of shit out of him, so you don't need to. But there's a button there that makes you calm, and I love visualizing that, because it does make you calm inside. And yeah, I mean that is a superpower that can be train, but you have to be capable of that. And the only way that you're capable of that is training every day, building yourself up, and pushing yourself to limits, to remind yourself that you are able to do that.
I mean, throughout your life, you sound like a very well-driven person. You'd had like especially I think when I see people who go into like bodybuilding or into the gym, they kind of develop that through the disciplines of trying to become bigger and build muscle. But did you notice a difference when you got your wife, your children, like the idea of like the protectiveness, the need, the having dependence? Like, did anything change? Did it increase? Did you know, have more of a responsibility to deliver on what you were trying to achieve?
I would say, when I think about it, no. I think what my children enabled me to do is not think about myself anymore and think about them. And it's putting myself first to be able to then be there for them. But I'm no longer doing things for myself. And it's kind of a weird thing to understand, because I always say you need to prioritize yourself, but this gives me the energy to do what I do now, because it's no longer about my wants and needs. You know, I'm not going to the gym. I'm not going to the gym because I want to look good. I'm going to the gym because I want to see my daughter walk down the aisle. I'm going to the gym. I've started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because my son's 4 this year and he's allowed to start. And I'm going to be 50 and still kicking his ass. And so I said, you won't. I'm like, I know. Just let me visualize this. And it's just this thought process about stuff like a bit. I just started last week, and the guy said, "Are you coming back?" And I was like, "You ain't gonna like." I don't think you know me. It's like this is me now. You know, and it's funny. You filled out the form. He's like, "What's your goals?" I said, "Black belt at 50." I'll probably get there hopefully a bit earlier, but that's me, because my visualization for that is now my Archer's 4, going to his competitions when he's 14, rolling with him when he's 25. You know. And I'm 50, that's going to keep me looking after myself. It's going to keep me pushing myself in my 50s and in my 60s. And it's also going to give me a bond with Archer as well as he grows older. If, fingers crossed, that he does want to carry on doing it.
You know, so my son's 6, so I've just started thinking about jiu-jitsu as well. I've never done it before, and I think that's the fear for me of like making an ass of myself. How was your first session, getting into it and everything?
Brilliant, because it's this beginner's mindset. I'm the newest person there, and I'm normally in a situation with physical things where I'm leading from the front, but I am a complete white belt. And I went, my friend's a blue belt, and he goes, and it was funny, the first session, you can mix it up with other people, but I tend to, I have a small group of friends. I don't really socialize outside of my circle. And I kind of was gravitating when we were going to do groundwork towards him, because I don't want to go with anyone else, because I want to be familiar with people. And then I went last night, and he rang us and said, "Oh, I can't go tonight." And there was a split second of going, "Oh, I won't go either." But then I was just like, no, of course you're going to go. This is your thing now. This is what you do. But also, you don't spend enough time doing things out of your comfort zone socially. You know, you push yourself in all of these events and stuff like that physically, but not socially. You know, social is a weakness of mine. You know, getting out there, meeting new people, outside of my working thing. So I went there last night and I learned so much. Firstly, the great thing about jiu-jitsu is that everyone rolls with everyone helps each other. We talk about the 33% rule. You learn so much. I'm 3 hours into my journey of jiu-jitsu, because they're 1.5 hour classes, but I rolled last night with a purple belt who didn't have his purple belt on. It was a 74 kilo guy. I was like, how long are you going for? And he's like, about 3 years. And then literally me, strength, just throwing him about everywhere. And him, I was like, you're like a fucking boa constrictor, because one of the things that I saw with it is, firstly, I showed him my hand straight away. So this is a purple belt. I think he's began 3 or 4 years, but I showed my hand straight away. So he's like, cool, this guy's 20 kilos heavier than me, is throwing me about. Cool. So now my strength becomes my weakness because there's only so much gas in a strong body. So instantly what he does is holds onto my hips, keeps very close, and then every time I use my force, moves in quicker and quicker. 3 minutes into a 5 minutes, he's got me into a position where my arms are over my head and choked me out. 74 kilos. And literally, I absolutely loved it because he overpowered me completely, because he and the advice that he gave was brilliant. He said, what you have to do as a very strong individual is you make your strength your hidden weakness. So don't show that straight away. What you want to do is ease off the pedal, allow them to put you into positions for the next couple of minutes, and then show that, because they will suddenly go, what the fuck? Because firstly, you've got that as a card. Secondly, you can put, if you learn the right positions where someone's not gonna, if you can learn a half mount position at that, and you can put someone in a place where you can conserve your energy, then you're gonna surprise someone. And I'm like, this is my second class. I'm like, I've got 20 years of this shit. I'm like, why didn't I fucking start sooner? But I was just like, it's such a humbling sport, because physicality is great, but it's skill. So it's already gets me excited thinking about it now. But once again, are very much wise life lessons that are going to come from going to each of those classes. Someone said to me, once again, I love quotes. He said, position before submission. I was like, that's great, because I'm just trying to submit people with strength. In actual fact, you need to put people into a position then to make your strength work for you. So I think within 10 years, I'll write a book on lessons from jiu-jitsu. I've already got some very wise lessons from the sea, which I'll happily share to you now.
Let's hear some, let's go.
Okay, so after 3 years of dipping in the sea, I have lots and lots of wisdom. One of them is the days that are hardest to go in the sea are some of the best sea dips you can go in. When it's raining, when it's wavy, and when it's horrible, is always the nicest sea. The sea is warmer because it's wavy and because it's cloudy. When it's raining, when you take your clothes off, it instantly has that cold on your skin, which makes it go in so much better. So actually, what that taught me is very much like anything about discipline. The days where you don't want to do something and the days where you need to do it the most. And actually, they're the days that when you finish doing it, you get the best endorphin rush, and you remind yourself, imagine if we didn't do it today. So that for me is just one of the biggest things. The second thing was about setting yourself up to win. So when I first started doing sea dips, I wanted to do them every single day. But once again, it's very hard to do, because I'd look outside and I'll go for my walk, but I say to myself, maybe don't take your swim shorts today. So I had an idea to wear my swim shorts to bed. So when I wake up in the morning, I look outside and go, maybe we won't go in today. It's like, well, you've already got your swim shorts on. Why would you have swim shorts on if you weren't going to go in the sea? So I did that for 6 months, and it made things a lot easier. So that's another thing that I learned from the sea. And another thing is, and I learned this from a couple of guys called the Happy Pair Boys. And what they said is the man that goes in the sea is very different to the man that comes out. And it reminds me of the difference between motivation and discipline. Because, see if I can kind of word this right. I said motivation is a feeling and discipline is a thought process. I always have this kind of first voice and second voice analogy. Your first voice wants you to be safe. The first voice will tell you to snooze. The first voice will say, don't go to the gym. The first voice will say, don't go in the sea. If you listen to that, that's not going to help you with your life. The second voice says, shut the fuck up and go in the sea. Shut the fuck up and go for your dip. Shut the fuck up and exercise. And he can only talk after he's listened to the first voice. So what you need to do is wait for that first voice to come and then listen. Now, it sounds mad, but everything about going in the sea, everything about going to the gym, about getting up early. They think I'm special. They think, oh, Jamie just springs out of bed. I don't. I have the same voice as you have. I just choose not to listen to it. I listen to that second voice, and that second voice is discipline, because he knows what's good for me, and he knows I'm going to feel good when I finish it. And that's the feeling that you're after. You get it after doing something, not before. And that's why I say, if you do things only when you're motivated, you won't get fuck all done. Because motivation comes and goes. People will say to me, how are you so motivated? I'm like, I was not. I have no motivation. I'm focused on discipline. Because that's the thought process that I need to succeed.
100% discipline wins, man. That's it. Yeah, we love the quote. I don't know how it goes specifically, but David Goggins talks about tricking. So a similar way to having that practicality, like having the swim shorts on already, is like, if he doesn't want to do the long run, he'll trick himself. So I'll just go for a mile. Yeah. You know, let's it in a bitch win is what he says. Yeah, that's it. Let's it in a bitch win, and he'll go for a mile. And by the time the mile, he thinks he's won, and now it's fuck you to the inner bitch, and he's going to run 20, doing 25 that day. It's funny. I just want to mention Niamh went for a cold swim a couple of days ago, and it was chucking it down. There was like the winds were crazy. She was out there with a Stoltman, and I think you said it was one of the best swims you had, right? She got knocked off her feet, but it was one of her favourite swims that she's ever done. And it's always the case, is the harder it is, the more that you have to take over the brain, like and get over that hurdle, that first voice.
Yeah. It's also saying another lesson from the sea is that when the sea is really wavy down here, it's very hard to get into because it spits you out. But you just got to get over that little bit, it becomes so much easier. Mm-hmm. So if you just mess around and dip your toe a little bit, the sea will literally smash you into the stones. So what you have to do, and that's really hard, because when the sea's cold, you want to ease your way in. And if you ease your way in, it fucks you. So what you have to do is fully go in. So wait for the wave and go. And as soon as you get over that bit, it's not as waving and it's a lot more fun and easy. And you can take that with anything in life. If you just dip your toe in things, it's never going to fucking work. You need to fucking go all in if you want to fully enjoy that experience. And it's the same, I can't just go to jiu-jitsu and go, I'm just going to go to a lesson. Yeah, okay, go to a lesson, see how it is. But it's like, no, I do jiu-jitsu now. I always take wisdom from things. So once again, just 2 lessons in jiu-jitsu, it's just like, cool. It's understanding that, I'd understood a lot of the concept. There's this book called The Art of Learning by Josh Waitskin, and he's a chess pro who then got into a martial art, and he learned so much about the martial art because of how he learned how to play chess. And you'll appreciate this. And one of the things he spoke in the book, and it makes so much sense when it comes to jiu-jitsu, because you have to make decisions in a split second, and you wonder when you see people how they feel like they've already know what you're going to do before you do it, and that makes a true chess genius, and that makes a true martial art master. And he said you've got to look at this as frame rate, okay? Because if you have 30 frames a second.
If you're enjoying this interview with Jay Alderton, please head over to Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can support the channel by buying the t-shirts or the journals. And also the new poster is available, the Memento Mori poster. With code STOIC at checkout, you get 10% off. It's a poster to remind you that one day you will die. It's 80 years of tiny little squares, and you shade them in as you go along. If that doesn't get you motivated, I don't know what will, because one day you will not be shaded in a box. That works for me. So if you want to be reminded you're going to die, head over to mulliganbrothers.com. But before that, let's dive back into the interview.
You have 30 sections of 1 second. But if you have 240 frames of FPS, frames per second, you have 240 moments for the same amount of time. And he said beginners work at 30 frames a second, experts work at 240 frames a second. So they see the same second. They're just able to respond differently, because within that same period of time, that person's got 240 thoughts going through their head to make a decision versus just 30. And that for me was just like, because that's where repetition increases that frame rate, because it allows you to have a gut reaction to things so much better from expertise.
You do, yeah. I think I used to play basketball, and you see that from the best guys, the pros. It's like how did they know that was going to happen? How did they know they was going to do that? But yeah, you're right completely.
It's good. Just they play at a higher frame rate.
Yeah. I think just for that I mean, we've had some amazing punch points. Like honestly, I can't thank you enough for all of this. Just for that, like the motivational video element of it, like the hard hitting mentality that you have, like, you know, that the voice number 2, like, could you just expand more on that? Like, as much profanity as you want as well. Like, I wonder what, you know, what comes to you in those darker moments, those difficult moments, or when you're really trying to absolutely kill it, like breaking the world records and stuff.
But I'll tell you a moment from the box jump. So one of the reason for all the charity events is there's a local children's hospice here called St. Wilfrid's. Now, they work with life-limited children. So most of those kids aren't going to make it past 15. And what that place does is it offloads the burden for families around here. So if you've got someone with a life-limited condition, it's for the parents, it's a 24-hour-a-day job. And they literally have to look after those kids up until, you know, the day that they pass. So they get up to a week or 2 weeks free care where they can either come into the hospice, spend time with the children. They've got amazing facilities, board games, everything's accessible. They've got this amazing swimming pool we go in. It's like tropical. So anyone with kind of conditions where they need to keep temperature, amazing. And also one thing they can do is they can leave the children there so they can actually, you know, go away for a week and refresh the batteries and that. And just before I did box jump, St. Wilfrid's came down with a massive card for me, and all the kids had painted a Mount Everest on it and signed the card. And I put it on a chair by the box because I was like, I can't fucking not do this now. They've given me this fucking card. And also just going through that time and looking at that card and going through the pain, I was like, there is no worse pain than losing a child at 15, you know, at 15 years of age. So any pain that I go through right now, it's going to be easy. So it's a perspective. And I can always pull from that now because it's you know, once again, I can pull it now and go, right, cool. What the fuck are we doing with that? And you need to find your own kind of pain points for that. You need to find your own mindset for that. And everyone has those moments which they can pull from. For me, when we talk about motivation and discipline, I always say motivation is doing things when you feel like doing it, and discipline is doing things regardless of how you feel. Don't rely on motivation. Motivation is a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling which will get you started with things. And, you know, to a certain element that can be important to get started, but don't allow it to, you don't need motivation to get through with things, because everything that you need to do in your life is fucking hard to do. But everything fucking hard to do will change your life. And no one is going to come and get you up in the morning and tell you to do it. Discipline is doing things regardless of how you feel. And for me, that is reminding myself of, if it's hard to do, it's good to do. Because you don't learn anything from a perfect day. And when people have a shit time, they don't learn the lessons from those shit times either. You know, if someone said, I've had the week from hell, you want to forget it. But it's like, well, why have you had the week from hell? What's happened? And what can you do next time? Something that we do in the army when I was in was called an after action review. And what an after action review is when you go out and patrol on the ground, when you do something, you come back and you ask yourself 3 questions. What went right, what went wrong, and what can be improved next time? And you need to do that for your day, you need to do that for your week. What went right for the week? Firstly, if you've had a shit week, there'll be a few things in there, some highlights, some things that you're grateful for. What went wrong? Lots of things went wrong. Cool, let's list them down. And then the final one, what can be improved next time? Because a lot of those things that went wrong probably were because you weren't prepared, because you didn't do something, and we can get ready for that next time. You know, or what went wrong? Fucking hell, traffic. You know, was late to work. What can we do next time? Cool. Well, we know Wednesdays is a bit nightmare for traffic, so maybe leave 30 minutes earlier. Common sense isn't always common practice. So for me, it is living a disciplined life. You know, it's doing the hard shit that you don't want to do, and it's convincing yourself to do that because of one of my favourite quotes, and that is, hard things, easy life, easy things, hard life. You can choose an easy life. There's no one making you go to the gym. There's no one making you jump in the sea. There's no one making you do any of this shit. You can live a very simple life, but good luck with it. Let me know how that goes. If you want to live a rewarding, fulfilling, successful life, you'll embrace difficult things the minute that you wake up. You'll embrace those difficult things without waiting for permission to do it, or for somebody else to put a mirror in your face to say that you're not doing enough. Set a standard for yourself, because if you want to build your confidence, you want to build your self-esteem, you want to build a life for yourself, you need to take a good look in the mirror, because that's the only person that's going to do it for you.
Right, I've got three more questions, and then I will get out of your hair, Jay. The first one is, we spoke about that you'd had success with on social media, and it's a very, very interesting question because of that you've been in a long-term relationship since you were 13 years old. So what is the biggest, what is the most important thing in a relationship? Or in selecting a partner or choosing a partner, sorry.
One of them, there's multiple things which I've learned over the years, and I very much owe a lot of this to a guy called Alderton. And I think it was Jim Rohn that said this quote, but the mistake that a lot of people make in relationships is that they say to the partner, if you look after me, I'll look after you. But that's bollocks. I'll look after myself for you as long as you look after yourself for me. Okay, happiness is an inside job. You need to bring your own happiness from yourself if you want to be happy in a relationship. Because the minute that you rely on somebody else for that, you're always in need, and neediness is not a good thing in a relationship. Me and my wife, we love our own company, we love our own independence, we love doing our own things, but we also love doing things together. So we know it's important to fill up each other's fill up our vessels first before we fill up each other's. So once again, you need to fill up your vessel. You need to look after yourself for the other person, and vice versa. I think another super important thing is communication. And this is super important. The reason that a lot of relationships kind of fail is that it becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of people have a lot of insecurities about themselves. A lot of people have a lot of fears and doubts about themselves, but they don't communicate these well with their partners. And this is super, super important, because the self-fulfilling prophecy is if you're an insecure person, but you don't want to tell the other person, you act in a way that displays your insecurity, which then puts off the other person, which then solidifies why you broke up, because you didn't tell them that you had that insecurity. And the more open and honest you can be in a relationship, the more that person can understand you. Another thing is, if you think that a person will change for you, you're fucking sadly mistaken. what a relationship should be about is that person embracing all of your flaws as well. They might not like those things, but they live with it, and vice versa. If you honestly think, all right, I love that person, but if only they could not do that, I'd have a good relationship. You won't have a good relationship. So it's taking people for all of their good points and bad points too, and being okay with that. And I think the biggest problem these days, you know, I've been with Anna since I was 13, so that was before Tinder, that was before all these other swipe things. I only ever went on Tinder in New Year's Eve 2023. It was because Anna, my wife's cousin, gave me her phone because I'd never seen a dating app, and she goes this. I said, "Oh, can I swipe? I think left on some guys for you," because she's trying to find a partner moment. And I'm like, oh my God, like, fuck it. It's like, is this what this is all about? And I was just like, this is what's fucked up about relationships. Because, you know, I don't know about you, but I sit down on a Friday night, kids are in bed, we whack on Netflix, and it takes us 25 minutes to make a decision on what to watch because there's too much fucking choice. And we're so afraid to make a wrong decision on a film that we just probably waste half a film making that decision. This is dating and relationships this time. There is too much fucking choice. And because of that, you are afraid of making the wrong choice. And because of that, you make no choice. And it's the most fucked up thing. Stop using these dating apps. Go out and speak to people. Go out and give it a go. Be your open, honest self. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But just stop trying to compare and swipe and do all of this shit. Because it boggles my mind. It really, really does. I don't know how. And the statistics show otherwise. You know, a high amount of people find their relationships in the dating app. But of course they do. Because if everyone's on a dating app, then they're going to find someone. But it's just this analysis paralysis. Too much choice equates to no choice. Same with YouTube. You can pretty much learn anything these days, and because of that, you learn fuck all. So pick something. Pick someone and pick something, and go all in. So at least if it doesn't work out, you found something that you don't want to do. A guy who I've just been following, I'm excited because he's coming to the UK soon, so we can do a podcast. His name's Sahil Bloom, and he said, if you want to find your ideal partner, write down 4 attributes which you love about a person, and then go and embody them yourself. Because one of the things I used to be a sponsored athlete, and one of the questions as a fitness model that people would say to me was, Jay, how do you get sponsored? And I said, well, you have to be sponsorable. And they go, well, what does that mean? I said, well, no one's going to pay you money to endorse their product if you don't have influence over what you say. And the whole point that you are sponsored is because you have something to give to that sponsor. You know, if you had no followers, if you didn't have a physique, and, you know, you were a nobody, you ain't going to get sponsored. No one's going to go, I'm going to give you lots of supplements to take just because I like you. That's not how life works. It's like they're a business. You've got hundreds of thousands of followers. You look like a Greek god. You've just made yourself sponsorable. When it comes to relationships, you need to make yourself attractable. And that doesn't mean being ripped, having expensive clothes and nice cars. What it means is attractable is exercise, hydrate yourself, get your fucking hair cut. You know, if you're looking for a certain thing in a partner, make sure you look like that too. Simple. So, you know, you attract what you are, so be attractable.
I chuckled then just because I think that is true. People have high expectations of others but don't hold themselves accountable to that as well. The last 2, one that I would not be able to leave without asking you is the ultimate morning routine, which I think you've got a fairly decent one. So I'd love to hear your morning routine.
Okay, so nowadays, when it comes to my morning routine, I give people I had a viral video about my morning routine because a lot of people got angry because they're like, that's not sustainable or that's too much. And I completely agree. But to me, it's Monday. And the reason it's Monday is because I choose to do all of these things and I'm in a position to be able to do them because I want to do them. I don't want to do them, but I do them. My day starts at 4:30 a.m. Get up at 4:30, downstairs for about 4:45. I stretch and do some mobility for 25 minutes. I then do 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing. I then open my Day One app, which is a journal app, and I ask myself my 5 questions. I then read a chapter of a book. I then go for a dip in my plunge tank. So that takes me to about 6:15. I then drive to the gym, get to the gym about 6:45, half by the time I've dried off, 6:45, gym till about 7:45, 8 o'clock, so maybe an hour and 20 in the gym, and then come back and have breakfast. So start at 4:30 waking up and finishes about 8:30. It's about 4 hours. Do I do that every day? Pretty much, but I do have a routine that I do if I'm away, and I trying to keep my morning routine down to 4 things. So it doesn't matter what it is, it has to produce the result of 4 things. So when it comes to my morning routine, mine's a big morning routine, but I could easily slim that down to about 8 minutes because it's understanding 4 things: move, breathe, read, and think. When you wake up in the morning, you have to have some kind of movement, be it stretching, be it going out for a walk. That's what's really going to help get your brain firing up, because as soon as you move, your brain is fully fresh, fully recovered from a night's sleep. As soon as you move, it wakes it up. And do not use that brain in the morning to scroll and have negative things. It's like a sponge. It's a creative sponge. Use it instead of absorb crap. If you're going to absorb stuff, absorb a book. So that is what I prefer. Move, breathe. Breath work has been a massive game changer for me. I've only really been doing it for about a year now. We breathe every day, but how often do we breathe? When we're stressed, we have shallow breath. So simple thing. Wim Hof breathing I love. Box breathing, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds hold, 5 seconds out, 5 second hold. What I found with breathing is it reminds me of an old TV, that old white noise where it's going, because what happens when you breathe is it turns the noise down. So breathe, read. When your brain is firing all cylinders, absorb it with some good shit. Either read a book or listen to an audiobook. Cheat code is to move and listen to an audiobook. I used to have these things called power walks, and people think, how fast do you go? I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm powering up on the walk. And then finally, think. Thinking in the morning is so important. Once you've moved, journaling is the most amazing thing because your brain is firing up. And the morning, when it's quiet and it's early, is the best time to ask yourself the all-important questions, such as, are you happy with what you're doing with your life? What are we going to plan to do this week to push the needle forward? Journaling is a massive game changer. The reason that a lot of people don't journal is because they don't know what to ask themselves. And that's why you need prompts. Prompts are super, super important. And just write in a journal 3 things. What are you thinking about? What 3 things are you grateful for? And what, if completed today, would make it a good one? 3 simple questions that any person can ask themselves each day. And there you go, that's journaling. It's not complicated and it doesn't take that much time to do. But that's where you're going to ask yourself the deep questions. And whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, whenever you're feeling stressed, what you need to do is get it out. So you need to brain dump things down. It also will help improve your sleep. Because if you've got a lot of things on your mind, that's when you struggle to sleep.
So yes, my morning routine is 4 hours, but if you understand, move, breathe, read and think. Move, I could do 1 minute of burpees. There we go. Read. We can, one thing that I do for a read is I have lots of notes and a lot of motivation quotes, so I can spend a minute or 2 minutes taking on board 2 of my motivational quotes, which are going to set me up for the day. Think. How much time do you think it's going to take you to write those 3 prompts? Okay, breathe, box breathing, 2 minutes. So we've pretty much done a morning routine like in about 8 minutes. And if you could commit to doing that every single day, 8 minutes, you see a significant impact in your life. Very much like you were talking about with David Goggins doing the first mile. When you do 8 minutes of a routine, hitting those 4 things, that 8 minutes might turn to 20 minutes, to 30, to an hour. I'm not saying that yours is going to turn into 4, but my morning routine, it is there because that makes me bulletproof. I have literally ticked every box that I need to do for myself for the day, and I don't need to do anything else for myself. So by 8:30, I'm fully selfless to what anybody else needs from me.
Love it. And this is the final question, which throughout this interview, I've heard you pulling them up left, right and centre. So what is your favourite quote of all time, if you had to pick one?
Hard things, easy life, easy things, hard life. I do have like a list of maybe 5, but I would say it's the easiest one to remember, and also if you took it on board and if you reminded yourself of that every single day, anything that life throws at you, you would ask yourself, hard things, easy life, easy things, hard life. Choose hard things. When hard things happen, you'll learn the lessons. And life, I don't know, I think it was a John Maxwell quote. Someone said to him, John, life is difficult. And he said, compared to what? And it's this assumption that life's meant to be easy. It's like, who told you that? No one told you that. It's an assumption. It's not meant to be easy. You wouldn't want it to be easy. It'd be fucking boring. So hard things, easy life, easy things, hard life.
I love it. And I just wanted to put it out there that if people want to get a lot from yourself, you put so much out on Instagram. So if people wanted to do that, you could go down below, follow the link, you'll be able to find Jay's stuff on Instagram. But if you had to divert somebody and said, this is where you're going to get the most value from myself, what would it be? Would it be a book, a website? What's the thing you'd direct somebody to?
Most definitely my Instagram page. At the moment, that's where my focus is for things, and anything that you want to find from my stuff will be from there.
Thank you so much for this. I cannot thank you enough. And yeah, that's it. That's wrapped.
Thank you so much to Jay for all of this. I cannot thank him enough. We sat for hours before this conversation. Jay just given us lots of help how we can improve Mulliganbrothers, the mission of inspired change, and how we can use this to help more people. He gave us that knowledge and wisdom, and he didn't have to. And he's willing to offer it to everybody. He gave me a book that might help me out, that he thinks might help me out. So I'm going to read that. He gave us the tools that he's using for his video. We shared some of the tools that we're using for our video editing. He shared about other platforms. So, all of these things, he was such a great help. And I want to say that because if you do head over to his Instagram, you're getting information from somebody who genuinely wants to have positive impact. We have fake gurus out there. We have people who are in it for the money. We have people who are in it for disingenuous reasons. He is not. And I really think that's important. When you're receiving a message, it is felt when it is genuine. So yeah, please go show Jay some love. He's got books. He's in consideration of writing a new book. We've had all these lessons here. So yeah, I'd love to do it again and roll it back with Jay. I think next time I need to go get some lessons from the sea myself. But yeah, thank you so much to Jay. All of this was made possible by Mulliganbrothers.com. The support that you guys are giving us makes this possible. That is how we get our film crew all around the world. It's genuinely not possible without that. So anybody who bought a t-shirt, a hoodie, a journal, And also the new Memento Mori poster is available at mulliganbrothers.com, where you get 10% off using code STOIC. It's a poster with 80 years of tiny little squares that reminds you that one day you are going to die and that time is very, very precious. So if that sounds interesting to you, head over to mulliganbrothers.com, where you can be reminded that you're going to die. But it works for me. Guys, thank you to everyone who's subscribed, hit the notification bell, hit the join button. You know, this family that we've got on here now, this movement of Inspire Change, you know, it's not been an easy ride. I know some of you guys messaged me on Instagram and you told me you've been following from 7 years back. Thank you so much. You know, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much. You know, we're not going anywhere. This is our mission. We are here to do this forever. And you know, that's why we're doing the documentaries. That's why we're doing the feature-length documentaries. That's why we're going to be on Netflix and Amazon. That's why we're going to be on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, because the mission is to inspire change. And however we do that, we will do it. You know, we want live events now, and all of these things. The mission is to inspire change. And if anybody's got any suggestions, if anybody feels that they can help us, please go over to Instagram, drop me a message, and I will try and get back to you. So thank you so much to everybody. Have a blessed and productive day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Go smash it.